I'm Rev.Jessie Brandon, and you're watching Epiphanies. I'm a life cycle celebrant and an ordained metaphysical minister. And here on Epiphanies, I get to bring my two joys together, and that would be people and books. So here with me today is Veronica Weston. Now, she lives right here in Barrie, and she is the co-founder of Dinah's Moon, an organization that brings women together to be in community, to support each other and reconnect with our ancient tradition of holding sacred space with each other while embracing our modern way of life. So welcome, Veronica. I'm so pleased to have you here today.
I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And we're going to be discussing a book that I've heard about many times but never picked up. It's by Anita Diamant. It is called The Red Tent. So it's an intense, vivid novel, and it's tempting to say that The Red Tent is what the Bible would be like if it had been written by women. But only Diamant could have given it such sweep and grace. So it's about Dinah. In the Bible, her life is only hinted at in a brief and violent detour within the more familiar chapters about her father Jacob and his dozen sons in the book of Genesis. It's told in her voice, and it reveals the traditions and turmoil of ancient womanhood. And on that note, I'm going to have Veronica tell us, why did you choose this book?
I chose this book to talk about today because it played a key role in inspiring the woman that I wanted to become. So about 9-10 years ago, I was part of a book club, and it was a couple of friends of mine. We decided to get together and start reaching out, making more friends, because making friends as an adult seems to be a lot more challenging than when we were kids.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
So we were all kind of feeling like we needed more women in our lives at that time. So we thought starting a book club would be one way to reconnect with other women and meet new people. So we posted it online, and we introduced ourselves to new women, and our circle grew, and that was really cool. And this is not a book that I would ever normally read myself. Like, I was really into true crime and biographies, textbooks, trying to educate myself. So if I were to pick up like a fictional book, it probably wouldn't be one that would be biblical, right? But we would take turns every month. So somebody chose this book because it was one of the picks at the bookstore, and she said, why don't we read this? So I did, and to be honest, that was 9-10 years ago now. I don't remember what most of the story is, right? Like, I don't remember about, Jacob and the brothers, and I don't even remember how it ends. But what I do remember is that Dinah was raised among women. Because Jacob had many wives, and they had many children. And one thing that they would do is on the new moon every month, the blood moon, as they refer to it, the women would gather in the red tent. And what happened in there was the older women were teaching the younger women. They were going through all the cycles of life together. They were going through grief and celebration together. And I thought, wow, like, this is something that as women today, we are totally missing, right? I started joking with my friends in the book club that I should just pop up a tent in my backyard, and like once a month we should just hide in there for a weekend and just disconnect from our jobs, our husbands, boyfriends, children, responsibilities, and just be in that sacred space with each other. And I thought, what a genius idea. Like, we have let that part of ourselves go, where as women, we're not in community together anymore. And that really resonated with me. And by coincidence or not, that's when I started my own journey of healing. And I found it through a women's group, a women's organization that hosts weekends. And so by attending that transformative weekend for women, I was connected to a network of thousands of women globally. And so within a span of a few months, I went from having like my little pocket of friends in my book club to being part of a global community of women.
Wow.
That was all about healing and connection and supporting each other in sisterhood. And coming from a background of, you know, anxiety, depression, isolation, you know, it was pivotal for me to find that connection with women so that I could learn to love myself, so I could discover my gifts through the way they saw me, because all these women became reflections of parts of myself that I didn't know I had.
Right.
So that for me was life-changing.
Yes.
So the last 9 to 10 years, always with the red tent in mind, like that time with women is sacred. Even if you're sitting at a kitchen table having tea, you know, that is sacred time for connection with women.
Yes.
And so now I make it my purpose to do that as much as I can.
Very cool. So do you happen to know, is there a particular place in the book that...
I've been trying to find it, to be honest, to prepare for this, and I probably should have just reread the whole book to find it. But in flipping through, like the universe, like normally you open a book and you land right on the right page that you need. And I couldn't find.
Let's see what happens if I do that.
Let's see what happens if you do it.
Yeah.
But even as I was flipping through earlier, you know, waiting for us to begin, I was catching little snippets of, you know, her and what she was learning from her various mothers, her father's multiple wives.
Yeah.
You know, so it touches a lot on pregnancy, and, you know, I opened the book to a page where a woman had lost the child, the birth did not go well, and how they were grieving together and how they supported each other. And that's exactly what Dinah's Moon is to me.
Yes.
You know.
That's really amazing. I don't know if you know, but October is Sudden Infant Death Recognition Month, and I'm not saying that in a very eloquent way, but my daughter is in college and her placement is with Hospice Aurelia. And that's what she's been striving to be able to work with, is women who have lost their
grieving
children.
Mothers.
Yeah, grieving mothers. And so she took me out to a conference that they just started that was an announcement of a new group in this area, because there was nothing for women who had lost their babies, either through miscarriage or stillbirth or later, whatever circumstance it was. They had to go all the way to Toronto to find any sort of support group.
Right.
And does Dinah's Moon have any function like that?
Well, I wouldn't say that grieving mothers would be our specialty, but we want to hold space for a woman in any phase of her life.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to go through things alone, whether it be grief, loss, celebration, mental health issues, you know, deciding about your relationships, deciding about your career. You know, we tend to internalize all of that.
Right.
Because in the day of social media, particularly, it's all about looking good. Look at my life. Look how perfectly I'm running things. I'm the perfect mom. I've got it all. I'm working full time. I'm traveling. I'm shopping. I'm going out to dinner. Like, look at all this wonderful stuff I'm doing. But like, when the camera's off, when the computer's off, where are you with yourself, really? You know? And do you have anyone that you could be real with? You know? Even for me today, getting married, getting ready to be here, I don't normally wear makeup, right? And I got caught up in the whole, like, well, there's going to be cameras. I need to look a certain way. I need to brush my hair. I need to put lipstick on, you know? And you know, that is not me every day, right? But my girlfriends, my sisters, the women that I trust with my life, they see me in my pajama pants and greasy hair and pimples, and like, you know, it's just somebody that I could be real with. And that's really what Dinah's Moon is. We want the opportunity to bring women together and just drop the mask, the facade, the costume, you know, the need to look good, to convince people that you're okay and you're great, as a matter of fact. And we want to celebrate when things are going well and you're living your life and you're accomplishing your dreams. But the road to getting there is to release anything that's holding you back, any barriers that you have, anything that hasn't healed.
Yeah.
You know.
That's really interesting because I trained as a life cycle celebrant, which is out of Australia over 50 years ago.
Wow.
It started with them just ordaining lay people to be able to do weddings and funerals in the outback because there wasn't enough clergy.
Right.
And they took it from there further, creating a study of various celebrations and rituals that had been done around the world and the ones that we can create for ourselves, and having those ceremonies as well. So when it came to the States and then to Canada, I did my research in becoming an ordained minister, which was my goal. I didn't want to just be an officiant.
Right.
I wanted more. And so I took this course with life cycle celebrants, and I perform ceremonies and rituals for people. And one of the ones that I do, I call it the women's release ceremony. I hold it at the Labyrinth.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and it's for that very reason, for women to recognize that they're carrying and holding things that aren't serving their purpose.
Right.
They aren't serving their physical health, their mental health, and maybe it's time to let them go. And so when they have reached that spot, then we go to the Labyrinth and have a release ceremony, and it's really impactful.
Yes.
And so I imagine that that's what you're doing. I would say verbally with the women in your group, you talk about those things that from both ends of the spectrum, from
exactly.
the joyful through to the
you
grief.
know, it's not just for women that are broken and struggling, and you know, it's also for women who have gotten through to the other side. And as women being in community together, we get to support each other through all those phases. You know, and that's something that we don't have today.
Absolutely true. I mean, there's a lot of things wrong with the whole harem idea, but there's a lot of really good things about women's community being able to support each other, and because there isn't that wellspring of common knowledge and common support and the empathy that we need to be able to carry all that we carry.
On the back of the book, I was noticing there's the book club discussion questions. And one of them is about Dinah and the relationships with her many mothers. And I related to that personally because, you know, I haven't had the closest relationship with my own mother. But when I started my journey of healing and connecting with other women, I was 28 when I started that journey. I'm 37 now, and I met women as young as their early 20s, but well into their 60s, 70s, 80s. So I got to experience having many mothers, many mentors, women who have, you know, been doing this work for a very long time, and learning from them and having that sort of mother-daughter relationship without all the angst and expectation and ego. But just that loving, deep relationship that you can have with other women. And I remember when I was getting ready for my wedding, and my mom was witnessing these relationships that I have with the women in my circle. And she's like, you know, your friends are all so different. Like, some of your friends are my age, some of them are older, some of them are younger. Like, how did you meet all these women? And it's like, it's just been through my work of reaching out, wanting to connect with women from all ages, all walks of life, because we can all learn from each other. And it's not about judgment or being only with people who, you know, see things your way or have been through your experience. You know, back when I had intense low self-esteem issues, I would look at a beautiful, successful woman and think, I can't even say hi to her. Like, why would she even want to, like, give me the time of day? Like, we are not in the same league. And then when I did connect with them and I overcame those insecurities and intimidations, what happens in that process is you find your commonalities. You find that, you know, we all go through very similar feelings and emotions as women. You know, it doesn't really matter what we look like on the inside. There's something at the core of who we are as women, that we're all connected. That sisterhood is there. We just need to tap into it.
Right. Right. Now, okay, so you're married. What does your husband think of all of this?
Oh, he fully encourages it.
Yeah.
He sees how when I connect with women, how when I connect to who I am as a woman, and when I deal with my healing and my insecurities, and, you know, I just come back to him a better, more supportive wife, right? He sees how if I go weeks without doing this work, without being with women, how, you know, my light dims and I kind of like, I sink, you know? And then, of course, all the other, you know, chatter and all the feelings, like the negativity, you know, the darker energies, like they just start taking over, and that has an impact on the relationship.
Yeah.
And luckily, he's connected to a men's network. So he goes off and spends time with men, because it's just as important for men to connect with other men and be in that masculine energy, and, you know, where they hold each other accountable in their own ways.
Yeah.
You know, so he does work with men, I do work with women. Sometimes we come together, like there's an event this weekend we're going to together, so that, you know, the masculine and the feminine can mix. And for us, it has propelled us, you know, career-wise. You know, our business strived once we started this work. Our relationship improved. You know, the reach, the impact that we've been able to make through this process
very cool.
has helped,
Yeah.
you know. Whereas 10 years ago, when it was just the two of us, just dealing with our stuff with each other, you know, all the projection, all the arguing, all the insecurities, all the past relationship damage that we were bringing into our relationship, you know, it wasn't good. We weren't doing well.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to live in abundance and joy when you're in that, you know. So by me connecting with women and him connecting with men, it just allowed us to be, you know, in relationship in a much better way.
Right, because if you're feeling good about yourself, that's what you're bringing back.
Exactly.
And it changes your perspective about self, but it changes the way you look at your partner as well.
Yes.
Because if you're coming from a place of abundance, you see abundance.
Right.
And you see the good, rather than when you get, I know for myself, if you spend too much time alone, you start thinking about the things that need to be changed, that aren't quite right. And then you start looking, okay, and what else is wrong? Well, here, let me tell you what your list is. And
Exactly.
you know, all of that crap can go on. And it's really just the product of a mind that isn't being watered and I want to say nutritioned. That isn't a word, but you know what I mean. Like fed by other minds.
It's connection, right? Like when you think of, for example, an umbilical cord, right? It's feeding you, it's serving a purpose, but it's a connection.
Yes.
Right? And that's one thing that as we grow up and go out into the world, we lose our connections. With technology, we're losing our connections. And that's when you have disease, addiction, depression, anxiety. Like, it's all, in my opinion, a lack of real connection.
Yeah.
And so for me, I know what it did for me personally.
Yeah.
And so maintaining a connection, making more connections is the answer, I feel.
Yeah, so you spoke about, like, Dinah's Moon is in Barrie.
Well, we're hoping that Dinah's Moon will have, you know, one day maybe even a global reach, right? I live in Barrie. My best friend, Mary, who started Dinah's Moon with me, lives in Bradford, so we are relatively local. We have many connections in Toronto. The retreat that we're hosting next year is going to be in Stouffville. And so, you know, we do want to extend our reach, but because we're in the beginning stages of building this community, we're starting more local.
Right, so I guess what I'm looking for is, do you have monthly gatherings of women in a particular place?
Yes, in September what we did is we hosted a full moon women's circle and then a new moon women's circle.
Nice.
We wanted to give women the opportunity to use the releasing energy of the full moon to clear away and release anything that was kind of like holding them back or dragging them down. And then the new moon was all about setting intention and creating new goals and, you know, putting energy towards what you want.
So do you and your partner facilitate
Yes.
these meetings?
Yes.
By giving them concrete activities or things to do that serve that purpose?
Exactly.
That's what you do?
Yes.
Okay. What would that ceremony look like? Or can I call it a ceremony?
Well, we do try to bring the element of ceremony back into it, right? But women are so disconnected from that in this modern world, right? So we don't want to get too scary or uncomfortable,
Woo-woo
you know?
for people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, like for me, I think it's great. The more woo-hoo, the better.
Yeah.
But, you know, we do want to bring women who are out there who haven't found that connection. They don't really know what they're missing yet. So we're trying to make it more kind of open and welcoming and comfortable, and then, you know, take it from there.
Right.
So the first few circles that we've hosted, yes, there was fire, there was flowers, you know, we acknowledged the moon, you know, we had the sacred space, there was no technology. And we did work, you know, we did some writing, we did some speaking, some sharing, and there's something that spontaneously happens when you bring women together, right? We don't really know it, but it just kind of naturally happens. So when Mary and I are holding space, we've learned to kind of go with the flow, right?
Yeah.
There was one women's circle that we did where the one woman shared, she goes, I just kind of feel like we need to sing.
Neat.
And so the women started singing. And that wasn't on the agenda. We hadn't planned that.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you hold space for women.
Yeah.
And as we grow, we do want to bring other facilitators into the fold. We want to contribute and support other women, right? So for example, I would invite you to come and do a ceremony, or we would collaborate with you at the labyrinth.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it is all about sisterhood, partnership, collaboration, supporting each other. We don't want to compete.
Yeah.
You know, we're not out to, you know, make millions of dollars and just, you know, destroy relationships along the way. You know, it's really just about embracing all women, what they have to offer, and supporting all of us to become more successful in the process.
Right.
And I don't just mean financial success, but like, you know.
Yeah, abundance in every way.
That happiness, that freedom, that peace of mind.
The authentic self being allowed to
exactly.
express itself.
Yeah.
Because I think that we have been, both male and female, we've been taught societally to bury so much of who we are so that we all fit in. And those of us who don't fit in lead horrendous kind of existences until we find our tribe, because we're so busy trying to fit in, and we know we don't. We are so round peg, square hole, you know?
Exactly.
And I lived my whole life I came from a family of women and yet still didn't fit in.
Right.
And
it could be crippling when you try to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're really hoping that the women who join us and become part of a community, because that's what we're trying to build here. We're not building a business.
Right.
We're not just looking to fill retreats and events and sell tickets. We are trying to build a community. So we want to be in a relationship every day.
Yeah.
Right? Or, you know, not just a monthly event.
Exactly.
So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, you know, we're looking at opportunities to meet in person, coming up with different ideas. And then yes, in May we will be hosting a retreat where for 3 days we get to get away and go into our red tent and just, you know, ignore, you know, jobs, children, husbands, responsibilities. And we have this beautiful property in Stouffville that we've rented, and it's secluded. Like, it's a gated property. You go through the gate, there's this like tunnel of trees that you drive through. Like, you feel like you're escaping into another world. And so we want to give women just that opportunity to shed life and just be themselves.
Excellent.
And I don't know what it's necessarily going to look like, You know, it could just be like a 2-night sleepover with a bunch of women.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to have professional catering, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's how I ended up doing this show. It was 4 women having a sleepover who got laughing and talking on Facebook and then talking about dreams.
Right.
And somebody said to me, you know, what's your dream? And I said, oh, I've always wanted a little radio show about 2 a.m., playing the music I want and reading from the books I want and talking to anybody who's going to call in. And somebody said to me, oh, you're way too animated for radio. You need to be on TV.
To be on TV. Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, okay, how can I make that happen? And,
exactly.
And thank goodness Rogers is here for community people to come forward and say, I've got an idea. And if they can make it work, they help you make it work.
And that just organically evolved from being in relationship with other women.
Totally. Having them support and validate me and because I was not necessarily someone who thought of myself as, I mean, I've always been a talker, but, you know, but having something to say and something to do. And inviting women, because it's mostly women who come to my show. I'd like to have more men, but really inviting women to come and talk about who they are and what they're doing and, you know, being able to spread their word as well as, you know, read good books. You know, even though this, as you say, has a religious connotation, it's about women and how they support one another.
It's the relationships with the women that really stood out.
Exactly.
To me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been of such value to me. And now I want to pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So for any woman who's out there, feels like she doesn't really have many friends, or maybe she does and it's more superficial, you know, they can't really reveal their true selves, you know, for fear of judgment.
Exactly.
You know, come and be with us and just kind of practice it, right? Like it doesn't all happen overnight. Right?
Yeah.
But if you join us for a women's circle, if you join us for, you know, just like a coffee table hangout meeting, you know, little by little you'll get to see yourself the way other people see you in a space without judgment.
Yeah, that is absolutely fabulous, and I commend you on that journey and that work because it really is necessary. And so I'm sitting here with Veronica Weston of Dinah's Moon, and she brought us The Red Tent, but it's really more than the book this time. It's about community with women and being together and supporting one another and living your true authentic life. So that's Epiphanies this time, and I'd like to thank you for being here. It's been really interesting, and I thank you for dropping into Epiphanies, and I'll see you next time.